Hello and welcome, beautiful people. So before we get kick-started off with our second podcast for the year, I just wanted to give a little quick update as to just how well and amazing Bitstocks has kicked off this year with our crowdfunding campaign. So we are now 154% overfunded, which is amazing. And what's even more amazing is we are kind of championing the torch and the flag for the maximum amount of investors for any company on the CrowdCube platform. We're now approaching 1,000 investors. And this is fundamentally the core reason why we've done the crowdfund campaign, is because it's not necessarily just about the monetary contribution. This is predominantly about ambassadors for the brand, right? We want people using Gravity, we want people supporting Gravity, we want people in resonance with us, and we want to grow that resonance all around the world. So to see 1,000 investors sign up and pledge to Bitstocks to get an ownership stake in Bitstocks has been an incredible start to the year. So everyone who's contributed, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And we've got 20 days left. So please, as now stewards and ambassadors of this mission along with us, spread the word.
I'm Michael Hudson, CEO of Bitstocks, and we are the builders of Gravity. Here at Bitstocks, we're on a mission to shed light on the inefficiencies of the current global banking system and to provide a viable alternative to truly empower humanity as we move into the data economy of the future.
And we are live. So episode number 2 of this year for the Bitstocks podcast. And someone who has been in beast mode, you and your team, beast mode, the last, I'll say, from this time last year, well, leading up to this time last year, it was going into CoinGeek. You guys made quite a large announcement at CoinGeek. That was when you introduced HandCash Connect, right?
Yeah.
And now we are today. So without further ado, for anyone who's new and watching the channel, hopefully there's many people new and watching the channel. Alex Agut is the CEO of HandCash and one of the foremost formidable CEOs in the space, someone who's really championing the technology and really spreading user adoption with the seamless, sexy use of HandCash as an application. Alex, my brother, how are you? You look amazing. You've brought the sun back from wherever it is that you've come from in the world. How are you looking so tanned in 2021? What is going on?
Well, I spent the holidays in Argentina visiting my girlfriend's family, and I had a blast over there. And yeah, it was peak summer over there. So 37, nice. 40 degrees. I took all the sun with me. Yeah.
Dude, you're radiating. You're radiating. So let's talk. Well, there's so many things we could talk about, bro. Obviously, you and I catch up in private time to time, and we allow our conversations to span in different directions. What do you want to talk about? How do you want to steer this? Obviously, there's loads of work stuff to talk about. But how do you want to steer this? What's the most important thing, I guess, to you right now?
Oh, maybe we can start with, just because it's a lighter subject and maybe it's more to the topic. We can start with discussing Connect or so.
All right, let's do that. So,
yeah,
you last year, HandCash Connect announced that HandCash is bringing out SDK, and now we're heading towards business interoperability, right? Yeah. So, run us through Connect, run us through the thinking behind it, where we're at today, and who's building on it.
Yeah, well, the first thing started when we launched HandCash, like 2018. Suddenly we realized that if we wanted to compete in the market of digital currencies, we had to do something different, not just better, but different from what Visa and other companies were doing. And what we found out was that with Bitcoin SV, and thanks for its low fees, we could compete on a new market. Well, we could create a new industry basically around what we call right now nano-payments, which are payments are less than $1, and we can you can pay 5 cents to a guy in Japan, and that those 5 cents can be moved to another guy in Brazil, and then pay a fee for another person that's selling their GPS data live or something. You can do all kinds of crazy stuff by atomizing data and atomizing money. So we realized that was the way to go with HandCash. So the only way that makes sense was if we had kind of a login with HandCash with apps. It was something that nobody understood once we launched it with Cashport back then, and we launched it with what is now called Streamanity, and it was pretty cool because people were connecting their wallets to Streamanity, and they were paying by the minute, and without having to scan their QR code or having to interact or do anything, and it worked like magic. So it was obvious to us that that was the way to go. But we needed to make a much bigger effort into making this SDK way more user-friendly so any developer that doesn't have any knowledge about Bitcoin can implement nano-payments as as a revenue stream for their apps.
What's the biggest challenges?
I think it was the overall design of everything, because we had very strict requirements. We didn't want it. I mean, we wanted it to be very high level, and for that we couldn't ask developers to care about keys or care about signing or care about any of those things. And for example, one of the stringent requirements, well, two of them, were that we wanted it to be a keyless solution, because we don't want. We think developers would not onboard new, normal people into apps that require to store 12 words, because people, in our experience, most people lose them or they never get to save them or whatever.
I agree on
that. So we needed to go keyless, which was something that we premiered in the first time that I was in your show, by the way. And the other great requirement was that we needed cloud signing. We didn't want signing to be done on device or on the browser, because that has a lot of limitations. You have to disable security settings. You have to, every phone is different. It doesn't work. And also it doesn't allow us to actually execute payments when you are offline. And it's something that we are very interested in. Actually, we think it's a great use case that you can actually trigger payments from apps without you being online, just because something that you did earlier triggered a payment. So it was the overall design. We ran through many iterations, I think, and the final design came when we went to the latest CoinGeek London in February last year.
Yeah.
When we gathered the team, and we were in a Starbucks, and we were discussing about all of these, and it has to do this and it has to do that, and then Ivan, which we wouldn't be here without Ivan. Shout out to him. Came up with a very rough idea of what Connect is right now, and it was like, oh shit, this solves everything. The same design solves the keyless solution, signing, multi-platform. It solves everything. And yeah, but it was very tough to get there. I think we are very big believers in that oftentimes you have to, when you have the right question, the answer is obvious. But it's very tough to get to that right question. And it's like a mantra we have in HandCash, and we try to figure out the right question.
And you've touched on a few things, because that's actually going to be my, ironically, next question, which is the psychological paradigm that had to shift and be lowered to introduce these types of concepts, right? Because we come from a space that is very much not your keys, not your funds, right? Be your own bank, which I clearly don't subscribe to. And you clearly don't subscribe to with your recent changes. But in terms of, addressing that intellectually and communicating that to your user base, right? How challenging was that? Say, we as HandCash, we don't want you managing your keys in that way. We want to have a keyless solution. We want to do cloud signing. How do you communicate that message in a way that gives people trust and technical integrity?
Part of it, I think it's that we are very open about why we make some decisions on HandCash. Oftentimes we have been very controversial, but at least the good thing is that we have delivered. And for example, the people were questioning, when we launched the first version, that NFC, people would steal your funds with NFC just by approaching your phone. There were 5 or 6 layers before that could even happen. And but man-in-the-middle attacks with handles never happened. And we have many of these things that and also we were the first ones in all crypto to get rid of confirmations, because we realized that you just don't need them. I mean, it doesn't say that you need confirmations in the white paper. So I think it was in one part because due to our track record, also because we're pretty open, and also because I think ultimately our users, they don't pay us because we are not charging them. But I think when they install HandCash is because they trust our judgment or they trust our vision. And, they have alternatives. And there are people that, they may not trust the keyless system, whatever. And they say, hey, I'm just going to keep like $50 in HandCash. And that's totally fine with us. I mean, even more, we would actually prefer it, because it's, again, we are any company in Bitcoin right now is running kind of, it's not experimental because it's been around for 12 years already. But it's a very new technology, or at least our companies are very small yet still. And, you cannot expect the same SecOps as Apple or whatever, although we have great security, at least in HandCash. I don't know about the other companies, but we take that very, very seriously because, our reputation is on the line with that.
Absolutely. So run me through the user experience of keyless. What does that look like? How does HandCash communicate that? Why is it better for me as a user, right? So now I'm Bitcoin silly. I've just heard about it. Everyone said use the HandCash wallet. I don't want a Bitcoin education. Like why is this so different?
Well, the question that solved the equation was basically that we figured out, okay, so how can we make sure that we can help users access their money without us having access to their money? And that was a very tricky question, but actually, once you lay it out that way, there are many, many solutions and many technologies out there that can actually perform that. And so basically, if you already have a HandCash account, it's very easy. You just install the new app, and you just are asked to validate an email address. That's it. You validate an email address, and then the threshold signature magic happens. I don't know if you want to enter in detail in that, but the thing is that
we'll come back to that, because I do want to enter in detail.
We'll basically, as a user, you only have to validate an email address and then wait for 5 or 10 seconds until the money is moved from your old non-keyless account to your keyless account. And you see all your transaction history and everything the same way. It's just that there was a migration from one account to another. The good thing about this system is that we decouple identity from your keys, while you are still the owner of your keys, because it's like you have a key, you split it in two, that key is yours, and you are asking one company to hold one of the pieces in your regard, and you are asking the other company to, in this case, MaraCloud, to hold the other. And triggers are only payment when you give access to, when you say, okay, you can spend money in my regard to both companies. But we don't know which is the key that MaraCloud has. And without your consent, MaraCloud will not sign a transaction. So it's not just us that we have to sign. It requires that you ask the other service to sign for a transaction. And we think it's great. And also, I think one particularity that we have with this system is that we've been a little bit well, I think we've done something that it was a bit complicated in terms of, maybe we could have done it in another way, but as it was important for us to have cloud signing, unlike other threshold signature apps, we don't restore the full key in your phone for security reasons, and also because we don't require to actually sign in your phone. So that's actually great for many reasons, because at least you're never a target, because the full key is never in your possession.
So with that, having a great time on holiday, right? Like you come back with a nice tan. And
You always tan.
I forgot my phone on the beach.
Oh,
right?
shit. Yeah.
So like, oh crap, like the way we were doing things up until now, if I was storing wealth on my phone in digital assets, I've lost my digital assets, right?
Yeah.
So is HandCash different in that regard? I leave my phone on the beach, my SV ain't gone?
Sure. No,
Okay.
no.
So what's the recovery process?
I mean, for example, the usual thing would be that you are asking for a copy of your SIM card to your phone company, and then you just verify your phone, verify your email address, and that's it. I mean, your email address and your phone company account are, they never got lost in the beach. It would be a little bit more tricky or complicated if you also, for some reason you change of countries and it was impossible for you to get a new phone or whatever. But if you can prove that you were the owner of that account, and you can verify the email address, and that you can show us that you were paying phone bills for that particular number, and that, etc. As long as you can prove your identity, your funds are safe. And that's cool because we are doing that in a way that's non-custodial by definition. And that's saving a lot of money to us, to all of our Connect companies. And also it's safer because, there's no jackpot for a hacker to, enter HandCash and get the keys or whatever. And also if they did it, there are many security layers, and I think it would be irresponsible to talk about all of them.
Of course,
right?
I wouldn't even ask you, dude. So if you start talking about it,
but there are layers and layers and layers of security,
yeah.
And that's why it took so long.
I do want to talk about one factor though, the pairing when it comes to the threshold signatures, right? You said that you've gone keyless. Is utilizing threshold signatures part of that aspect?
Sure, yeah, it's what allows it to be that way.
So what is the magic, I guess, happening behind the scenes that then makes the experience for the user?
Well, the user feels like they are using a regular banking, a regular modern banking app or whatever, that you just verify your phone and your email address and you're in. So that's not different, and we don't want people to think that this is a better way of doing crypto. We just don't want to even use that word. This is another kind of thing. And
it's your way of validating your own access to your own stuff.
Sure,
right?
Sure, yeah, it's your account. It's people are not used to, I created an account, and I cannot recover it. That's we have many support tickets that were in that regard. So it was clear that we had to go in this direction. But yeah, when a user, for example, when it says, imagine that I want to send you a payment, well, I'm basically behind the scenes, it looks like it always has been, that you send $5 to Michael, whatever. But behind the scenes, what happens is that I'm asking HandCash to sign a transaction of $5 for you, and I am asking the user, MatterCloud, to sign a $5 transaction for you. And when both conditions meet, you have partial signatures, and with both partial signatures, the transaction can be sent to the miners, and so it's super fast. It's super fast because we are using the super low latency servers that talk very fast to each other. I think we are benchmarking like 700 milliseconds per payment or something, and we have parallel processing, and we have something that's called like crypto module, something like that in Python. That it's great because we have a team of engineers that they decompose all the phases of in a tree.
Yeah.
Of how many milliseconds takes every operation, and they're always challenging themselves to, can we shave this from 80 milliseconds to 5 milliseconds or so? And they created, for example, a crypto module for the signature part, I think. Or anyway, I don't know. The thing is that there's it happens very fast. We can do parallel transactions, and we are confident for the benchmarks that we've done that without having to upgrade our software, we could manage like 10 times the load of the whole BSV.
Nice. Very, very
Easy.
nice. So, Connect.
Yeah.
Now, so what's the intent behind Connect? Like, where do you want to see it go this year? I know there's been a couple of apps already utilizing it, which is awesome. What do you hope this does to this space?
The main goal with Connect, the difference with other, I don't want to call them competitors, or I don't want to say that they are not aiming for this, but at least the way that we are approaching this is that we are 100% focused on making Connect for non-Bitcoiners, so they don't have to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That's kind of the mantra we have. If something sounds like a little, if a feature request sounds a little geeky, like oh, but I want to send a custom script with whatever, and we are like, we are not going to. At least we are not going to put that in the documentation. Maybe if it's for a client for a one-time thing or whatever, we can change it. But the whole goal with this is that we can make Connect an SDK so simple and so easy for any developer. We are targeting right now the Flutter community, which is a very active development community. People are very thrilled about this framework that's called Flutter by Google. And we launched the SDK also for Flutter, and they're very thrilled about that because it gives them a very new way to actually explore new business models, new revenue models. And we want to become the default way of monetizing your apps if you're a startup or a young developer.
Okay, so now this gets into the next stage of where I want to take this conversation and really talking about, okay, how does this space grow? How does it evolve? Is the infrastructure that we're setting up today mindful of the evolution of where this space can go? And are we making the right, say, infrastructure decisions? So we're talking about now a world of monetization of data, right? You mentioned early on in the conversation an integration you've done with Streamanity, right? And Jack was obviously the first person I spoke to in terms of the podcast this year. We had a really interesting conversation. And he was actually self-critical of the execution of Streamanity. He's also critical of the present execution of Twitch. We discussed about having this amazing, beautiful window of opportunity presenting itself in the world right now. We're not quite oiled enough to slip right through it, right?
Yeah.
So HandCash model is like nano-payments. Twitch and in this Streamanity's model is content delivery. But in Streamanity's case, unless I'm mistaken, how did HandCash change the Streamanity model? Because with Streamanity, from my understanding, someone isn't paying per second, are they? They're paying. It's a paywall.
They were when it's because Jack acquired the project, but it was first started by Samath and I don't want to chop their names. I'm ruining their names, I'm sure. And Shravan, and they were great guys. We had a great relationship with them, and they were charging per minute. And but the thing is, I think Jack changed that and even removed the tips, whatever. But I don't know if it will be the right fit for Streamanity. The thing is that imagine that you can connect your HandCash account to a podcast app, and you are paying you are paying by the minute, 5 seconds, 5 cents or 10 cents or 1 cent or whatever by the minute. And that's something that you can do live. And also that's something that we are going to make very efficient, because we are not going to make one transaction for all of that.
That's why I think it's important to have the notion of handles and to have your information in one place, because transactions aren't just monetary. These transactions are going to be data related, right?
Yeah, sure. And also we want identities to be tied to transactions as much as we can, for many reasons, but primarily for UX purposes. We don't consider ourselves policemen. So even in the way that we are not actively looking for what users are doing with this or whatever. If law enforcement comes to us and says, hey, there's this guy that is using your service for doing whatever, but we are not policemen in that regard.
I guess really hone it down on is like, all right, we got data rights, we're going to this data economy. Infrastructure wise, are we factoring in this data economy?
I think we need two more things. No, three. I think one thing that we need is a drastic perception change in Bitcoin and Bitcoin SV. It's something that we've been working on for months, and we will release hopefully in the coming weeks. This is something that might shock a lot of people, the way we are doing this, because it's something that's never been done in crypto or whatever, but we think it's the right way to go. And I hope that we have at least, people give us a chance, and we all think the whole team thinks it's a great idea, but it's you would call it, well, it has some technicality to it, but it's mostly a marketing stunt. But because we think the perception on BSV has to be changed, and I don't want to be. I don't want to
agree with you on. And I know you're towing the line here, and I'm gonna push you over the line in a minute, right? Perception change, yeah, but what in what regards exactly? I'm not expecting you to tell me the technical revelation you're going to make in a couple of weeks, but like when you say perception needs to be changed, what do you mean exactly?
I don't think you can get anywhere if you still regard BSV as a crypto, and also we don't have any power over that brand, and it's something that. You know that I'm very obsessed about marketing and branding and such, and that we are using that technology doesn't mean that we have to actually promote the brand.
I agree so much on this. Go on.
And at some point, I know that some people might kill me for this, but okay, but I know I know that the Bitcoin Association and many people are doing a great job promoting, and they're doing a fantastic job. But we reach to a point where we think it's kind of we are battling an uphill battle that we don't have to, or we shouldn't. And we think there are ways of mitigating that. That doesn't mean that we are by any means saying that we are not going to use Bitcoin or whatever. That's not the case. Is that we want to present it in a nicer way. And I think it will be an overall win for the whole ecosystem. And I know if people will join, people won't join. Yeah.
Well, dude, that's hard truths and the reality of the situation. And I think, well, I should be known at this point by someone who does champion that sentiment and trying to push that sentiment forward. And I just wholeheartedly agree. And if we really think about this in a sense of what matters, I'm building our technology here at Bitstocks with Gravity for humanity, right? That's why I'm here. And all due respect, if Ethereum community delivers to humanity, which for a variety of reasons, I don't think it will, but if they did, I tell you what, I will still personally feel like I have won because humanity gets the end result. Right? Now, I'm operating on my own discernment, understanding, technical understanding, putting my money where my mouth is. And I believe that the Bitcoin ledger, as per the original white paper, is the way to go about delivering technology to humanity, right? And I'm backing that horse. And the same way you're backing that horse with your time, your money, your sweat, your blood, right? But ultimately, it's like, I'm not against the other camps, because if everyone is operating with the view to deliver this promise to humanity of transparency, hyper efficiency, a protocol that cannot be changed, and something that we can utilize as basically data plumbing for the world to utilize however it wishes, then let that be the overriding sentiment as to how we conduct ourselves within this space, right? Yeah. And also, to be quite frank, I right now am going through a crowdfund campaign, which is a very public thing. And I've done that. One is because we are building this for the people, by the people. And if I want to do and build a new financial infrastructure on transparency, I want to welcome them in. I want to welcome the world in. I want to welcome the community in. And I want more ambassadors championing our mission and joining us on the mission, right? And we've now got, knocking on the door, I think 1,000 investors who have contributed to the campaign. But if you look at the discussion section, there's a lot of BSV hate in there, right? And we knew that would be the case. And it's actually also part of why we did want to go down this route as well, because it gives us a great opportunity to address some of these concerns. And if you look at our responses to these concerns, that really is our sentiment. I really don't want to come across partisan. I don't want to come across aggressive. I want to use it as an opportunity to help educate. But the only thing that should really matter is how we're conducting ourselves in the space up until now actually puts the people who are building the company owners, CEOs, etc., like you and I, in quite challenging and awkward positions.
Yeah.
Right? Completely unnecessarily.
And I think it goes even farther than that. And our problem is not with crypto people or of attracting crypto people and saying, no, this is not Bitcoin SV or whatever. We're not trying to hide that from crypto people.
Yeah.
Because this is something that, I think that crypto people are, in our opinion, they are not a target for us. I think most of them, they're here for the wrong reasons, or at least they are not the reasons aligned with the things we are trying to do with HandCash.
Now, for instance, with Bitstocks and Gravity, our main competitor is Monzo. They're not even a crypto company. Monzo, like a whole notion here is Gravity is Monzo on a blockchain. You want to understand what we're building? Monzo on a blockchain. We're going for the mainstream play.
The problem is that there's there are two things. One is that, in marketing, there's something
Alex,
that
can you do me a promise, right?
Okay.
Do not censor yourself for the next 5 minutes.
I won't. I never censor myself.
I know, but you're just a super nice guy, and I know it's just who you are. And I'm saying, even if it was private, you'll be doing this with me right now. So it's not because the cameras are on, but I know you're a hyper nice guy. Just.
I don't like bullshit.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I know.
I might keep things for myself as secrets or whatever, but I don't. I don't. Yeah. So there, in marketing, there's something that we call categories. Okay. Mm-hmm. And basically, you are creating a vertical, and mentally you can imagine a ladder where there's a leader that's in the top position, and then there's the second, third. You see the same pattern in every industry. The leader of that category takes like 50, 55, 60% of market share. The second, the front, like the Pepsi of Coca-Cola, they always have like the 25, 30% market share. Then there's a third one, which in some categories most people don't even know about, and then there's the rest, which is just the rest. The problem is if you are branding laws are against you if you try to dethrone the leader, especially if that leader has been there for 8 or 10 years, and that they are against your odds. So BSV cannot, in my opinion, it's impossible for BSV to be the champion of crypto. It's impossible because it doesn't have the name. Mm-hmm. It would be another story if we had retained the name, or if Bitcoin Core just surrendered and said, hey, Shatters, just run our operations.
Well, there's chatter around that, and Craig say ownership over the name of Bitcoin, right? Which we haven't seen like pushed and materialize in any drastic way.
In my opinion, it's too late to actually have a real effect. I think what people
this weekend isn't this weekend proof and testament of that. Then we have a coin like Satoshi transaction move, and like no one's ultimately really cared. But before we go any further, there's something you said that I would like you to expand upon further, just so the audience fully understands what you mean. Because I know what you mean when you just said it, but so the audience fully understands what you mean. When you say it would not win the crypto, right, space, like define what you mean by crypto. What do you mean exactly with that statement?
If people think that the way the way that BSV becomes relevant for the world is that we, it ranks number one in coinmarketcap.com. That's not going to happen ever. That's a win. That's a race that you can never win. As Bitcoin SV. It's not just a sub brand. It's a sub brand of a sub brand. I don't want to be mean, but when Apple fired Steve Jobs, he didn't went and created Apple Steve Jobs vision. He created Next. Then he came back to Apple or whatever, but names matter and positioning matters and the way you sell yourself matters. And anyway, I don't think the brand is basically bad for BSV to say. It's bad if you want to win the crypto wars. If you want to win a crypto war or be the number one in CoinMarketCap, it's a very bad brand. If you just want to be plumbing, it's a perfectly fine brand. And as you said about Ethereum and whatever, we have reviewed many times other technologies like Ethereum or Lightning Network or whatever. Nothing comes close to BSV. Nothing comes close.
Yeah, I agree.
At least for what we are trying to do. And we want to use that technology, but we also realize that one problem was the internal fight inside the category of crypto. The problem is that when you try to pitch this to people that are not in crypto, they already have a notion of what Bitcoin is. And what is the notion of what Bitcoin is for people not in crypto? This is a scam. This is for criminals. This is illegal, whatever. There are many preconceptions. And then they figure out, but this is not Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin SV. And then you have to start, but back in 2017 or 2018, there was a split or whatever.
It's numbing at this stage.
No, you cannot. If you start talking about that, people turn off their brains and nobody cares.
Yeah. But let me throw a different flavor into this, because there's a lot of what you said I do agree with. Some things I want to explore more before I subscribe to, right? So when it comes to, okay, we're not going to come to number one of CoinMarketCap and all of that stuff, the war, we're not going to win the crypto war. How long do you expect that war to continue before that war comes to an end? Because there is a variety of factors, right? I'll throw some spices into the bowl. We've obviously got Tether, okay? And we know Tether basically minted pretty much every single day leading up to the 15th, if I'm not mistaken, after the 15th of January, which is where they had to submit. They've stopped minting. They haven't minted for a few days, right? So let's say we have the unfolding of Tether and compliance, regulation, law kicks in. How do you see, what does that CoinMarketCap even look like, Alex, at that point?
There's I don't know when that could happen, but it really disgusts me to a degree that you have no idea all the Tether situation with BTC and the hijacking from Blockstream and all the stuff, because you realize that if everything that we were doing, the handles, the peer-to-peer transactions, the threshold signatures, output bills, if we started doing this, maybe not in 2012, but maybe in 2015, 2016, we would be in a totally different
game changer now.
I don't know when, but I know that if you insist in labeling BSV as a crypto and you want to still be there playing the CoinMarketCap game, if the number one goes down, you go down with it.
Oh, 100%.
Especially if you insist that no, you are the real Bitcoin. It's like on 1912 after the Titanic's crashed. insisting that no, my boat is the real Titanic. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good luck with your name. Yeah.
So we're gonna have the way that I see this whole thing. And I kind of called it a few years ago, that I recited it in CoinGeek Canada. I'd done a presentation on the crypto cabal, right? And funny enough, the way that I see BTC, the overall big crypto camp, and like the sentiment and belief system is Biden. And I see BSV and the leadership of BSV, ironically, being Trump. And where it doesn't matter if the educated take it upon themselves to do their own research and discernment to decipher if there is validity behind the leader of the BSV, the inventor of the technology who now obviously leads the BSV space. I would say that Craig, 1 billion%, from my opinion, is a warrior of light. It doesn't mean that he's not an asshole in many other regards. Like, he admit that through his own volition. Yeah. But anyone that says the geezer's not batting for humanity, I would fundamentally disagree with that individual. He likes to lead with the sword, and he'll go off and he will chop away, right? And show me why that isn't a right approach to a certain degree, because for what he's had to fight through to get to where we are all at, I've got nothing but admiration for the guy, and I'm glad that he's there and he's got his shield and he's got his sword and he's going at it, right? Yeah. But then it's like, okay, we look at this whole space as a whole, and irrespective of like that is the intent, the reality of the scenario is most people, like what you just said, are not going to do the research to be able to discern that this is the right thing on it. So brand does matter. And I feel like that's where our leadership should have taken a chill pill and allowed other people to step forward to help, say, rebuild the brand in a way that's more palatable to the other side and the opposing side.
I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't even go that way. I don't think that you have to change BSV's brand. The problem is that you don't have to sell BSV.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at.
It's not the product. It's not the product. I think, for example, Bitcoin is a great technology, but is it a currency?
No, like not at all.
People are using Satoshis, but Satoshi, that's... I think there are many things that we can do in that regard.
Yeah, 100%. But it's like, there's something Jack said on the last podcast. He used as an example of a fax machine in the internet, right? If you know you've got the upper hand, you've got a superior product, the last thing that you should do is go make fun of the person for having a fax machine, right? Because you may have the upper hand in technology, but you have no idea as to how to get adoption. And I most certainly think that we have been victim to that. And this is something that we kind of saw ourselves, and we made a decision ourselves more recently, I say about a year ago, to be like, look, like we got to really emphasize that we're building this for humanity. And all the partisan stuff, the branding stuff, like I really want to push aside. I want to have great conversations with people from Ethereum. I want to have great conversations with people from BTC. I want to have great conversations from like any opposing. I want to have a great conversation. Like I'll have a great conversation with a Biden supporter, right? And anyone who follows me will know, okay, clearly I subscribe more to the Trump narrative, right? But it doesn't mean I'll be dismissive of having a human conversation with someone who's got an opposing view, because that's the whole point of being human, right? That's what makes us beautiful. That's what makes us unique. We should be able to have our dexterity in our characters and be able to discuss them. But how it's affecting us, it does make it more difficult as an entrepreneur in this space. And also to throw in the mix as well, it's like, all right, we've been championing this space massively, and we're building clearly all for the right reasons. We're pioneering innovation technology. You're doing the same as well. But for people who have taken this avenue and who haven't taken the primary source of funding in this space, it's a very lonely place, right? It's a quite lonely place. So I've said there's many things it is that I could say take some issue with in relation to like collectively the space and how we position ourselves. But the thing that ultimately matters is that if any entrepreneur in this space is looking at this the way that they should be, as much as it kind of sucks, it also kind of doesn't matter. Because if your view is truly global, then it should be a case of my competitor isn't, say, some other company in the space or some other project in the space. It is JP Morgan. It is PayPal. It is some other company, right?
Our insight is, we have been, as always, when you're taking too long to launch a product, there's a time when it seems like it's always going to be next month, and next month you tell yourself, oh, okay, we are going to launch next month, and next month you tell yourself the same. It comes to a point that you get a little bit hopeless or a little bit depressed, and it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But once you get there, for example, we reached to a point with Connect that it was like many pieces to put together, and it was like infinite work, and there was always something to refine, always something to make better, always a security issue that should be addressed before launch. But the thing is, then you have weeks like we had a couple of weeks ago when this developer launched something called Haste. And it's a pretty stupid game, but we learned so much about nano-payments and about revenue and the money that he made while everybody was kind of making money, or at least, participating. If you were more skilled or more faster or whatever, you made more money. If you were, very slow, whatever, you were losing money. But overall, you saw that, for example, this is something that was very interesting to me. When we're talking about nano-payments, for example, and this is something that you can only do with BSV at the time, as far as I know. At least, for example, with Lightning, you cannot really do multi-payments, like 300 participants in one payment. And with Haste, all payments were multi-payments to 30, 60, 90 people, and it was a closed beta. And you saw that maybe you were just making $1, but you spent 14 and you made 15, and it required like 200 transactions. And you didn't trigger all of those transactions. Maybe other people triggered them because you were involved in the transaction.
Great proof of concept.
Yeah. And it was like pennies were bouncing around, and Haste was making money at that scale, charging pennies or dust. Or it was very interesting to us, and that's something that there are many of these cases that we have seen that it makes too obvious that this technology is going to be great and is going to work. I think it's a matter of not just time. We cannot just sit and wait. We have to actually tackle identify and tackle the issues that are not allowing us to reach normal people. Because once we reach a mainstream audience with this is obviously way better than most of the financial things that you see over there. For example, another realization that we had this week was the referral programs. Other apps like Twitch or whatever, they already have made their referrals, but we have never experienced it from ourselves in our database because we were kind of a dumb wallet for too long. And something that we realized, or at least I realized, because for a year or so, one of my primary jobs was to do Facebook ad campaigns. and to program them. And for Instagram and for Twitter, well, Twitter was very expensive, so I kind of never did it. But I got to a point where I was super efficient at spending money for Facebook ads. What I realized is that with Bitcoin, you can do it in a way that you that no money down. You can do no money down advertisement because you can actually add little tiny fees to every single payment live. And as you don't have to wait for the revenue to come 1 month later or whatever, you are immediately reinvesting on your company. And that's something that you cannot do with banks, you cannot do with Visa, you cannot do with PayPal. There are these things that you learn while you have this Bitcoin company right now, or at least if you're in a position with nano-payments and companies integrating this, there's no way this fails.
Yeah.
No way.
You have certain moments of revelations where you're like, boom, that one little thing is a game changer. And there's loads of them.
In Bitcoin SV, we have many of those little tiny things.
Yes.
Many.
100%. So let's ramp up the optimism. Right?
Okay. No, I'm very optimistic.
100.
I'm just said that this cannot fail. We have to be very stupid to make it fail.
But we got to be realistic, bro. We got to be realistic.
Sure.
So like those concerns and discussing those concerns, just being very aware of the present and articulating the present is important. So what time frame do you give us? So something else that was quite interesting that we discussed on the last podcast with Jack was the notion of the unicorn companies in the SV space, right? Or the unicorn entrepreneurs in the SV space. I'm not going to get specific about who and that kind of stuff. It's not the nature of the question. But in terms of when do we expect to start penetrating mainstream and start having some of these companies really burst through, where companies start to get known for generating revenue?
I think it's going to be this year. At least we think we have everything necessary. Maybe our plan fails and there's something that we have to adjust or something that we don't expect. But if all the pieces that we have in mind are in place by summer or so, the second half of this year should be all, attacking mainstream.
Yeah.
And it's our goal. I mean, if we cannot wait until 2030 and because also what I don't like is one of the things that I never liked about BSV in general, and people that moved from BTC to BCH and then to BSV, there are many people that have this kind of mentality that, BSV is a superior technology, we already won. Well, turns out that not always the best technology wins. So
many cases, that's the case.
I think you have to be really humble and think that, there are many things to fix. No, not that many. There were many things to fix. I think for us, it's a matter of perception and addressing the fiat ramps, which is something that we are actively working on having ready very soon. And there's another thing with tokens that, we are not token frenzy like rest of the BSV ecospace, because basically we have been talking to developers and nobody knows what to do with tokens. We have one particular use case which I think will help us reach mainstream audience, and maybe in the future, non-fungible tokens and all this thing becomes a thing. But it's something that we don't want to bet a horse, right? Bet on a horse right now. I think it's a race that we rather wait and see until the technology matures a little bit. And more than the technology, you see more that we have now more token protocols than use cases. And we kind of have an idea of what the kind of token protocol we want. We think it exists. We think it will have a key role in this. It won't be the major focus of what we have, but I think it's going to be great.
But on this, Alex, what will be really good is key companies to get together and we all kind of collectively say, all right, like this is the standard that I think we should push ahead with. Because there being loads and loads and loads of players, to a certain degree, yeah, it's cool, it's good that we've got loads of different options. But I also do think that we're creating this kind of like fractalization within a very small space where we don't need to have so many people reinventing the same wheel. Yeah. We got a benefit of being able to kind of all push together in one direction more efficiently than maybe other spaces in this arena can do, which I think that happens at the operational level between companies, right?
Well, I think it's a two-sided sword, a double-edged sword. For one, yeah, ideally you want everybody to use the same standards, whatever, and and decide that what we have to do. Then the problem becomes that that's very slow. That's very slow for most companies because you have to actually agree with many companies at the same time. For example, the way we worked with MoneyButton for the bringing peer-to-peer back, which was awesome to actually, working with them and actually making it happen because it's something that was very, very necessary. We couldn't have Connect if it wasn't because peer-to-peer. So it was because it was two companies, two small teams, basically 3 or 4 developers, with a strict schedule of we are going to meet here, we are going to do this, and we are going to only agree on building the minimum thing that we both agree with. Because
very important distinction for developers.
Yeah, because maybe they want to add another particular use case because their UI displays this thing, or maybe we do this thing because we want to show display names and pictures and whatever. So, those are more aesthetic things, and we can work on them once we have the base layer solved. And I think the way to go is if you really want to do it with another company, any other thing. If we, for example, if imagine Gravity and HandCash, we have like a common pain point, and we realize, hey, this is something that maybe we could work together on, whatever. Yeah. And the more people you bring in, it becomes impossible to handle. And
100%. I mean, like hash wars, all that kind of stuff. There's a fine line with it, right? Yeah. There are definitely certain things that we have the advantage of being able to get together and say, yeah, as a community, we want to operate better. But then naturally, market forces needs to be its thing, and we need to allow the market forces to play out, which 1 billion trillion % is 100% how we need to go about things. But what would be great is we have, say, for instance, with the token side of things, more clear-cut presentations from the different respective things that are out there. So just collectively, we can get more into the discussion point. I think the most developed token proposal out there is obviously tokenized and the most public and vocal about what they're doing, how they're going to go about doing it. And James is really serious about all things compliance and being regulatory compliant. So that gives me a lot of confidence as, say, a CEO of a financial organization who's interested in this technology to engage with someone like, say, James. But I still would love to hear about all of these other solutions with the same level of, say, transparency and documentation that James at Tokenized has put together and done. Yeah. Anyways, put this stuff to the side, okay? I want to go back to this whole window thing, right? So the world is going through this transition, right? Let's enter
the rabbit hole.
It's going through this transition, okay? Yeah. And in this transition, it really is a balance between dark and light, right?
Yeah.
In this arena of dark and light, conversations have had to navigate their way through the different respective platforms. Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, primary, things being hosted on AWS, primary. And then now we're realizing just how bloody drastic it is with all the things that we have said as a community for years. It's now upon us. We have mass censorship. We have the companies being deplatformed.
Yeah.
Right. So we know our economic sovereignty is being affected. We know our our transparency within, say, our government organization, etc., the lack of it is being wielded against us right now. It's very difficult to discern truth in today's climate. Very difficult to discern truth in today's climate. Alex, why have we not been ready for this? And why are we not taking more advantage of what's being presented?
I think we maybe.
And what do we need to do to get ready for it as well?
Yeah, maybe this is just a personal opinion, but I think, for example, I've been reading and many. Well, we had some conversations. We have a deep understanding of many things, and maybe we became too intoxicated about it too early, and it's remember when Obama, I remember that people were freaking out like, oh, we are going to go into concentration camps with Obama, whatever, and nothing happened. And the globalists have been leading the charge in the US for quite a while, and although we have read about these FEMA camps, we have read about the martial law, whatever. We spent years and years and years where that was kind of in the back of our heads, but it was like, it never happens, actually. It's just like people are getting too crazy. And when you get too confident about that this is not going to happen, then it happens. And I think maybe we are too good or too hopeful with people, or at least were, about our fellow citizens. And we thought that, like have you seen the movie The Wave?
No.
Oh, it's a great movie, which is basically
The Wave. You said
The Wave. Yeah.
The Wave. No, I've not seen it.
No, it's based on a true story. It was a German teacher that confronted their students. They thought that another Second Reich or whatever, the Hitler Nazi regime couldn't happen again in Germany. And he ran kind of an experiment, and that it went out of hand. So it's pretty good.
No, hold on. I'm just gonna make it. Frankie, The Wave. Put that on my to watch list. The Wave. Okay.
It's a pretty good movie, and also, well, it's better if it's even better because it's based on a true story.
But go into like why are we here, right? So why have we missed this opportunity?
I think it's like we have seen dictatorships in many movies. I don't know if we have been inadvertently incentivized to actually accept it as something that can happen, or maybe 100%. Totally the opposite, or maybe totally the opposite. At the same time, you are being told that this is
you
not
could do
going
something
to happen.
About this.
Yeah, whatever is happening, that restrictions on mobility, whatever. If you make it nice enough or beautiful enough, or you use the right words with neuro-linguistical programming, people will just buy into it because, well, this is not a dictatorship. I mean, I can still watch TV and there's porn on TV. I mean, if there's porn, there's no censorship.
Like Stockholm syndrome on like steroids.
Yeah. And I think, and also the boiling water, the frog in the boiling water effect, that it's boiling down very slowly. And I am amazed, about my friends and family. Most of them, they don't have a clue what's going on.
Yeah, I'll say we've gone from maybe 9 to 1 being asleep to awake pre-pandemic to maybe 7 asleep to 3 being awake, right? So that's a huge increase, but it's still in the grand scheme of things. I'm judging this based on my own social circles and then just interacting externally. But the crux of it is that I guess frustrates me a little is we as a space, and I'm talking about the whole crypto space now, 12 years worth, we should have been ready for this moment. Why is there no application that is taking the traffic from Parler or Twitter or YouTube? It's going to Gab. It went to Parler. Parler got shut down because of AWS. Even more reason to be screaming from the rooftops about the benefits and what potential solutions we have in this space to replace things like say AWS, like this really is our time. It really, 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 really is our time. And what does the world look like after this event? What do we need to be really getting ready for?
You mean in Bitcoin, the Bitcoin space?
Period. Yeah. As a global collective, I think the thing that's going to be at the tip of everyone, should be at the tip of everyone's tongues at the end of this is transparency, right? However this goes down, one thing that I think everyone would agree on would be nicer is if we had a degree of transparency across everywhere, right? From governments, healthcare.
The problem is that everything that's transparent, open, and not controlled by censorship or controlled by certain companies, it's being shut down. So we are not even having a chance to actually. I think most people are scared. The people that realize are scared, and the people that don't realize it, they're just still on Twitter watching football or whatever.
Yeah, but this is the thing. This is the thing, Alex. This is our challenge. This is where we have to take like responsibility. I take responsibility myself, right? This is our challenge. And the one thing that we have in this space, if we want to say, okay, what does the BSV space really stand for? What have we stood for? Why have we migrated down to where we are today and transitioned away from the rest of the space? It's because we stand for something that we stand for utilizing a technology that can deliver on transparency.
I think there's a dichotomy here. For one side, yeah, we stand for transparency and we are law obedient people and we want to run our companies, we don't want to do any shady things. We apply for regulations. Unlike other companies, we care about making things the right way. And the problem is that when you are being obedient to a system that doesn't want to be obedient to you, the people, then that's a contradiction that you cannot break off.
But on that though, Alex, it's like I agree. That's the whole uphill battle thing we discussed at the beginning, right? Super uphill battle thing that we discussed at the beginning. But this is where we need to be smarter, better with our execution. And I agree with the notion that you're saying. Let's find a way to penetrate mainstream. Let's break away from this.
I think we are doing the right steps, but we are making the right steps. But I think maybe the timing was not just perfect for us to profit from this particular opportunity in early 2021. I think maybe. As I told you, the world would be a very different world if everything that we have done in HandCash would have done in 2015, but it didn't. And you have windows of opportunity. You don't. The world is not waiting for Bitcoin to be ready or to save the world.
Yeah, that's for damn sure.
And I think most people think that it's a great technology. We already won, and we don't have to do anything about it. And it's just a matter of giving it time or whatever. No, technologies and trends have their time, and you can miss them. I think we have a very short window of opportunity, and the product is very good, and we still have time. I think I'm very optimistic about at least what Bitcoin can bring to the table, but also about what's going on in the world. And this is something maybe we are going too off the rails, but. Who cares? Kind of conversations that maybe this way people can realize the kind of conversations you and I tend to have. During the first lockdown, at first, I don't know if you know, but I lost my grandmother. In theory, due to the virus. Yeah. Officially, due to the virus. I have a different opinion now. I don't want to discuss about that right now, but at first I was very scared about all of this, and I thought, I started buying stock and food and whatever at home. My girlfriend thought that I was getting crazy. I locked myself at home before the government asked people to actually lock at home. I was seeing these
Same.
videos of people falling down in China
Wuhan.
or whatever. I just wanted to be, I just thought that, hey, maybe this is not the typical age.
Caution.
Yeah, maybe it is not what was that, the swine flu, whatever, of these scams that that it faded away once they sold all the vaccines, but you never saw anybody going sick with it. So, but over time it became obvious that there was something else. I don't want to discuss right now the something else, or at least my point of view with that, but let's say that I'm pretty confident that there's a group behind everything that's going on, and it's a coordinated effort globally.
Oh, 100.
And it has to do with a meeting. Well, I mean,
it has to do with still unresolved right now, in my opinion, the election process.
I think it even has more to do with the Great Reset.
Oh, of course,
which is a conference that should take place in this.
Well,
this
in order
month,
for
right?
that Great Reset to happen, you have to destroy the last remnants of what freedom stands for, which is America, as per the Constitution.
The thing is, and okay, maybe I'm too much of a technologist or whatever, but I'm very deep into AI, and I really like to know about future trends, and what I kind of always have guessed very accurately, the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever, what technologies are going to catch up. For example, I was telling everybody that Tesla was going to eat the world.
I remember, man, you championed the hell out of Tesla. You championed the hell out of Tesla.
Many years ago, and people were like, that's a scam or whatever. Now it's one of the most value. Anyway, it was so obvious to me, but the thing is, during the first lockdown, I started thinking, like, instead of being just pissed off, I was just thinking, why humans like myself are doing this to other humans? And I started looking into their philosophy books, their Might is Right, their Satanic Bible, all this kind of crazy stuff. I wanted to burn every single page of those books. I read I read about Manly P. Hall's books. I read many of these things, and I try to be in the middle of the fence. Like okay, maybe this is something that we've been conditioned to not think like they think, or maybe they did it on purpose to actually inoculate in us a way of thinking that's totally opposite for them and to their advantage. Maybe there's something to this. And if you see all the plans about the Agenda 2030, whatever, I think the trends that I've been seeing always, I think it's kind of inevitable that we go into that kind of world where you have smart cities and you have vertical farming, and you have self-sustained communities with maybe we change totally radically different the concept of money. We don't need to work anymore because the machines can produce enough resources for it. So I maybe agree to 90% to what these guys, globalists, if you want to call them that way.
But so just let me pluck those, because you mentioned Satanism and you mentioned AI, and now where does the future go, right? Funny enough, I've been thinking about this a lot, Alex, but recently a lot. Like I've looked at, say, every angle, right? I've considered, is Q a psyop? Was this all premeditated, and to what end? And then what you was just saying there, understanding the other side, right? And just looking at information for what the information is, put your bias to the side. Obviously, I'm not going to subscribe to their view, but I want to understand their view, right? Exactly. And what's I find very difficult, the difference is that it's very easy to sit down and speak with, say, someone like you and I who are of light, right? And going down the path of of light. I know my journey is a journey of self-mastery, a journey of ascension, and getting closer and closer basically to ultimately light. But then I also understand that everything in the universe is duality, right?
Exactly.
I understand that there's yin and there's yang. I understand there's a bit of yin in yang and a bit of yang in yin, right? So when you then thinking about, okay, well, the Satanist view, right? And we know that artificial intelligence is part of the agenda of Silicon Valley, big tech, AI gods comes up, transhumanism, etc. Okay. To what extent? What is the true purpose? They're clearly not pro-life in many regards, but what is the beef with life? Like where does the philosophical and intellectual thought process and faith mixing all together to then say, this is our objective? It's so much easier to say, sit down and listen to someone like David Wilcock who will explain to you the path of light. But where do you get the David Wilcock polarized equivalent who can equally tell you the path of the Sith, right? Or Darth Vader? What is your path? To what end? Right? And then we look at things like AI and think, okay, well, is it complete abolishment of organic life forms and introducing this in a Matrix-esque way, right? It's a much harder thing to get down to the bottom of, to really understand, okay, what drives a geezer like Bill Gates, right? What drives these people really? Because it's so easy to sit on the sidelines say it's this and that, but like they haven't articulated it unless you're in that very small room, right? Understanding what is driving behind all of this stuff. And this is why I reference Bitcoin as being a digital recreation of the Akashic record. Because this is really like our opportunity that through just traditional business, traditional like human interactions, of just keep on contributing and logging our information against this planetary memory, then there will be people out there who allow you to read the memory better, and then all of these little clusters and pockets of who are we and where it is that we're going will be easily curatable and accessible. But I can't say with any degree of like high confidence exactly the objective of the opposing side.
I don't think there's an objective. I think it's I think they see it as a way of life. I mean, I think they think they are, for some reason, there's many literature about all of this, but I think they believe they are anointed to be the guardians of this earth for whatever reason. And they see themselves, one guy told me that they see themselves as imagine the forest guard. Do you call it the forest guard? The forestal guard or whatever. The person that's taking care of a forest or.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
If there's an infestation of rabbits, then they get the shotgun and shoot some of the rabbits. And is it bad for the forest? I mean, is your objective safeguarding the rabbits or the forest?
I understand that. And you got, say, Georgia Guidestones, where I can't remember which commandment it is, but it's the whole balance with nature, perpetual balance with nature. But they say that they need to reduce population to sub 500 million to be in perpetual balance with nature, right? But then it's like, because you mentioned the word AI, to what extent are we talking about an AI that is like the Matrix, or are we talking about AI that becomes like Transformers, right?
We don't know, and that's
the thing, we don't know.
My understanding with AI and many people that understand about AI is that we are already very fucked. This is beyond repair.
Yeah.
And this will never stop. And it can only get worse from here. we are in a stage where we only have narrow AI, which means that we can teach a computer to actually perform one task in a very smart way and much better than a human, but only one task. We are reaching to a point where it's only a matter of more trial and error to get to a general AI. Which a general AI maybe it's basically an artificial intelligence that can learn about any topic and actually can master it very, very fast. So it's like you have a narrow AI for everything. And that can equate human knowledge, but with much more potent hardware, and it doesn't get tired, it doesn't have to
I understand
wait,
that, but then
doesn't have to sleep.
Yeah, but even with that, I have an issue with how that tends to get articulated. At what point does the machine stop being a machine and start being like conscious?
There's two problems. Is that then the next stage from general artificial intelligence is that you get to super intelligence. That means that it's way smarter than a human. And if you remove because for example, all this conversation that we're having right now, it could have been processed in a millisecond between two machines. All the thoughts, all the conclusions, the reactions to what you said, or whatever. So imagine that you can compress 100 years of learning for a human in 2 seconds or 1 second or whatever. The problem with this is that you can say, but we can put some laws to actually stop it. It doesn't work. Most politicians, and this is why Elon Musk is so frustrated, and I understand him. Most politicians don't understand this is a threat. They cannot see 10 years ahead or 20 years ahead.
It's hard enough explaining Bitcoin, let alone this. So
yeah, no, they can see it's just a computer code. No, it's not just a computer code. And there's another issue is that, well, you said that when it becomes conscious. What if it doesn't? The problem is that we don't know. What we know is that the capability that one of these machines can have, and if it's it doesn't have the hardware limitations that we have to spend 2 hours to actually talk and listen to each other, to actually do the same thing that two machines could do in 1 millisecond. So we have these inputs and outputs problems. The UI between you and me, and also typing in a computer or something, that's a very slow UI.
Yeah, and that's obviously what Musk is addressing to compete, is to basically transhumanism, right? Let's increase our bandwidths, our bottlenecks.
So yeah, if you really are looking further down the future and you really have a deep understanding of what's going on in the world, and you have time to actually think and address, and you have the best scientists in the world working for you and assessing you, whatever, you know where this is heading. I mean, if I know it, they know it.
But this is where it goes back to the philosophical thought process that I've been having recently, which is, okay, so if I'm getting machine parts, right? At what point does it become, am I a machine and not human? Like if my neck down was all machine, am I human? Right? Or am I a machine?
The humanist movement, which is basically what Satanists believe in, they think that through knowledge and technology, Luciferian doctrine, through knowledge and technology, humans can become God, and they can overcome our flesh. So this is something that I don't know if this is something that they are actively pushing, or it's because after understanding where things are going, it's unavoidable to them, and they are just trying to make sure that transition happens, and because it's unavoidable, and that transition happens with the less mess possible to the earth. I don't know. This is something that I would really love to have a chat with them. But if someone of your City of London people are watching, hey, I would love to have a conversation with one of you.
I love how you pick out my city. So if you just knock out on one of your Satan's buddies in the City of London, yeah, I get them on the podcast. But I'll be honest with you, I would love to have a conversation. I would love to have a conversation.
Sure.
I'll ask some really stern.
Let's try
questions.
Let's try to arrange one.
Yeah, sure. There's definitely some questions that need to be asked. Well, Alex, before we dig any deeper in that rabbit hole, it's important to have these types of conversations because, like, being an entrepreneur in this space, we're trying to build. I know I most certainly am. I know you are too. Building solutions that actually give us tools that allow humanity to be more of what we are, which is humanity, right? Use technology as an extension of the human experience in order to compete against what we know ultimately is coming. And if anything that last year has taught us, and a continuation into this year, gone is the time where we can just think so freely and assume that this stuff is fictitious and will never materialize. I think one thing that we could all agree on about last year, there are many things that happened last year that we probably never thought would have materialized, but they did. And now we have 2021, and what I'm actually quite fearful of is we might miss 2020, as crazy as that sounds. So I do think we're gonna have I know, right?
And you wanted to be positive.
hold on. I'm gonna let me round it up. I'll get there. I do think that things are going to be very hairy for the next couple of months, at least, in regards to America. Is America going into a civil war situation, a civil war scenario? Are we going to have this breakout conflict with the Chinese, etc.? And if anyone who is operating really within this space, who's really looking at the world as to what our opportunity is, one thing I can wholeheartedly put my hand on heart and say, what I personally believe we will 1 billion% require at the end of this is the next place that this conversation is going, and this whole shift of 2020, 2021. Right now, it's very political. It's now going to get potentially military. The next thing I freaking assure you is going to be finance. We've done the whole social media stuff, censorship stuff, big tech stuff. The next thing I bloody assure you will be finance. And the requirement of transparency across the board, whether it's going to be a Biden world or whether it's going to be a Trump world, the one thing that will be a common thread is who am I doing business with and why, right?
Yep.
Are you transparent? Are you built on integrity? And this space has a huge opportunity to champion that. We're the only one who are even trying to champion that. So everyone in the SV space, like, hold that torch, light it up even further, throw some gasoline on it, and spread the word, and run around your village screaming and shouting and telling them that we do have actual opportunity to rebuild and to build tools and solutions.
Yeah, I don't. The way things are going with the world, you never know if you'll be allowed to continue it or not. But the thing is that what we are doing in HandCash, we are very law obedient, and we think we see that the trend is going cashless, basically, and the money is going to change. The definition of money is going to change.
100%.
And we want to have a say on that. And for that, we have to earn it. We have to earn having a say on that. It's because the same thing I discussed with you, that my next two companies are going to be around robotics and smart cities, if you want to call it that way. I don't like to call them smart cities because I think it's too, it's
Connected
a buzzword
cities.
right now.
Yeah.
It's a buzzword right now. But I think we can do much better in those three regards. In finance, in terms of robotics, I think there could be many positive things about robotics that people are not thinking about in the future, and the way we live. I think I want to touch all those three areas if they allow me to. maybe I have to hide in the woods or something. But I don't know. The thing is, yeah, we want to have a say on that. We want to have a say on that.
Yeah. Well, Alex, my bro, keep doing what you're doing. Love and light to everyone over at HandCash. Congratulations on your recent successes with Connect. I would love to see just more and more entrepreneurs, etc., just building on that infrastructure, really testing it out, and just keep going, my bro. Let's keep going. I mean, right now, you're holding a huge torch for this whole space in terms of users, connectivity of users. And let's keep pushing aggressively, like really, really, really aggressively.
And I want to recommend all your users, which I think they already have, listeners. I guess they all have already a Gravity account, but I use it and it's incredible. And also it has been, I had many issues with my old bank here in Spain, but since I've been using it with what's the name of that? It's not TradingView. It's I don't remember the name. TransferWise.
Oh yeah.
I have with TransferWise, which is a very modern bank, international bank. It works really, really well, and it's my default way of purchasing BSV, and I recommend it to everybody.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. And we got to do something with all of that. We won't say it on here, but we got to do something with all of that.
Sure. Later.
Guys, thank you so much. It was a bit of a long one. Definitely one that I think we should continue on with. But I didn't want to risk this going way too deep into the rabbit hole. Although I imagine viewers probably definitely wanted us to do that. I think there's
we could do a 3-hour Joe Rogan show one day.
I would love to do that. I would love to do that. We could bring a couple
with
of
cigars
people on.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Sure.
Have a couple of people on and just like hash it out and just speak on it for ages. But we have, again, I just want to say and finish on a huge collective responsibility.
Yeah.
And it really is like our time. Like this year is so important for this space. It's very important for obviously us with Gravity. Hyper important for what you're doing with HandCash. And
you too.
Let's all just continue to massively keep supporting each other and championing that humanity does have some good sovereign bloody options. And we are here building and working our ass off to deliver that.
Everything will be fine. It might take a while, but everything will be fine.
100%. Well, love and light, my bro. Take care, everyone. And to the next time. Take care.
Bye.